Hi, I am Manvi Tikku. You are watching the module on research ethics for research methodology in the course Law. So, what is research ethics really? Well, to begin with, let us understand what do you mean by research. A researcher, actually speaking, lives in every human being. The thing that differentiates a researcher from another human being is the fact that a researcher is able to see some or the other problem in the societal dynamics that he is surrounded with. Problem as in a research problem. Well, societal dynamics always give rise to some or the other social problem because of conflict of interest, which we as law students are all aware of. These societal problems are looked at or observed by different researchers or by different people in different ways, and this kind of observation or the different observations give rise to different set of research problems in the minds of different researchers. Let's take for example the problem of increasing number of rapes in India may give rise to an idea in a researcher's mind that some research is due in the punitive section of our criminal law. So he wants to study punishment, and to another researcher the same problem of rapes may give rise to an idea that some research is due in the patriarchal side of the feminist studies. So he wants to study feminist studies and he wants to study patriarchy in that. Now, what does this tell us? This tells us that the social problems may be same, they may be common because they are coming out from the societal dynamics, but the way that these social problems are observed and the way that these social problems are perceived by different people gives rise to different ideas, different set of ideas in different people. What does this tell us? This tells us that it is not just a social problem that is important for research, but also the innovation and imagination of every person comes into play when we are talking about legal research. So a research problem is formulated in a researcher's mind. He takes up a research, he is able to get some sponsorship for his research, and what does that yield for him is a research report. So the research that he conducts or the research idea that was actually conceived by him in the first place are all tangible things that cannot be seen or touched, but the research report is something that he is able to produce, and we can see it, we can read it, and therefore we can understand in what way did that particular researcher perceive a particular social problem. Now, why do we need research ethics? Well, ethics and morality are some things which govern each and every aspect of our life. We do not walk out of the doors of our house without ethics. Well, even within the four walls of our house, we always follow ethics and morality. These are the basic rules that one has to follow being a human being, because we are not animals, we are higher intellectual animals. Now, why do we need ethics in research? Research is something that is to be conducted by every individual differently. He has his own set of notions, he has his own set of ideals. So why do we need ethics really? Well, that is the catch. The problem is that even though a research problem may be formulated by different people due to their own imagination and due to their own innovation, yet the end result, that is the research report, which is the most important thing, may become a common factor. A research report which has been produced by one person may be used by another person saying that it is my research report. So now what that other person is doing, he is trying to get away with someone else's work saying that it is his own work. That is unethical. He may add some points here and there and just produce a very laminated version of that older research and say that it is my own research. That is not only wrong for the earlier research and the earlier researcher, but also it puts in a bad light the whole fraternity of researchers. So why do we need research ethics really? Number one, to have a common set of standards. What do you mean by common set of standards? Well, the set of standards that would be followed by everyone equally. There won't be any discrepancy, there won't be any ambiguity or vagueness. So, one researcher cannot say that I am not aware or I am not in the knowledge of what kind of research ethics are there. Having a common set or a common standard of ethics basically does away with this kind of ambiguity. The second thing is, it rules out all kinds of uncertainty. It is for the benefit and the knowledge of all the people who are coming ahead for research. Third thing is, it is a universal thing. Research ethics becomes a universal common factor for everyone who is coming ahead to do research. Plus, they will have prior knowledge. So, before a researcher embarks upon a research, any research, he knows what he is getting into, because he knows he will have to do an ethical research, and he will also know what does doing an ethical research mean. So, there should be a common set of standards. Another important factor that makes a research ethics very important is that following ethics in research or giving or conducting a ethical research basically makes the research socially acceptable. Now, why do we need social acceptance if the researcher is doing the research for himself? Well, no, the researcher is doing the research for the society. The society is what be the knowledge bank for the researcher, and it is the researcher's responsibility to give back to the society what he is gaining from the society. So, to gain a social acceptance, the researcher needs to do an ethical research. Not only that, before embarking upon the research, he needs certain sanctions from certain organization, etc., or he needs certain permissions from those people from whom he wants to collect his data, etc. For all these things and for having an acceptable research, the researcher must do an ethical research which will be acceptable to him, to the future researchers who want to research in the same field, as well as to all the actors and the participant who are a part of the research. Next important factor of having standard research ethics is that it maintains a minimal standard of good quality research. Research work in any country, in any field, is a very important component for the development of not only the society but also the knowledge in that particular field. Therefore, having research ethics or following research ethics or conducting a research in an ethical manner is what will ensure that minimal standards of good quality research are adhered to. Most importantly, doing an ethical research sets a good precedent. However, let us take an example of a person who may not be doing an ethical research, or who has produced a research report with a lot of plagiarized material. Well, what he is simply doing is he is setting a wrong precedent for those researchers whom he might be guiding tomorrow when he becomes a guiding supervisor, or else his plagiarized material might be used as an inspiration by some other future genuine researcher. So basically, unethical research is a chain that cannot be stopped. It is a unending vicious circle. For it to stop, it is the responsibility of the researcher himself to maintain a particular standard so that he is able to set a precedent for the research. Now, what do you mean by ethical research? Ethical research means following certain ethics in research. Do we know what these ethics are? No. Is there any law that gives these ethics? No. Then how do we know what these ethics are? If there is no law and there is no particular standard that everyone knows. Well, the fact is, just like in life, research ethics also need to come from the logic of the particular researcher, as well as from his own genuinity. It needs to emanate from his own genuinity and honesty. Sincerity in work is the first and foremost thing that a person can do to follow ethics in research. Would you Would we be getting any reward for doing an ethical research? Well, the answer is no. We do not get a reward for doing any research. Would we be getting punished if we do not do an ethical research? Again, unfortunately, the answer is no. We would not be getting punished. So then, question number 1, how will we ensure that research ethics are followed? And question number 2, why should we follow research ethics? The answer to these questions are, we need to follow research ethics for the sake of saving grace of the whole research fraternity. It sets a bad precedent to do an unethical research, and the blot of being an unethical research is something that will never leave the research report, even if the researcher, the unethical researcher himself wants to make amendments later on. Secondly, as far as the question of if there is no law or if there is no punishment, then how can we ensure that the ethics are followed? It goes like this. In life, we have many laws that are passed by the parliament. Well, do these laws, let's take for example criminal laws, do these criminal laws stop crime from happening? The answer is no. In the same way, having research ethics or having a certain policy for research ethics does not mean that research ethics will be followed. It only means that we have a certain standard of to be followed when we are doing research.